This is Shaun Sport in podcast form.
Fox Footy's Mick Ablett was all over the draft yesterday, and the great thing about watching Michael on the screen is he has a real good insight on all the West Australians, and I reckon sometimes we miss out on that from the National Service, particularly when the person who's up there announcing who's handing over the jumpers can't even get Justin Longmuir's name right.
It's an outrage.
And he's been coaching for years.
Coach, exactly.
I thought it was terrible. Anyway, Mickey Ablett joins us now. G'day, Mick.
Morning, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, absolute pleasure, mate. I loved your insight and always have on when we watch the draft, and in particular because you've got an understanding of the West Australians. So I just want to get straight into the WA aspect of things. You living over here, you'd have seen these guys play a lot. Bo Allen going to the West Coast Eagles. The club should be up and about.
Yeah, unbelievable, Shaun. I was really surprised that he made it that far. I mean, I don't think there was a happier club outside of the Richmond Footy Club than the West Coast Eagles last night when Bo Allen slipped through to their selection, because there was a lot of mail going around that he wouldn't have got past Richmond or Melbourne with the couple of selections that those teams had prior. But, you know, for him to remain at home in WA and the Eagles get an elite top 10 talent is something that all fans should be ecstatic about.
And the Eagles did a last-minute switcheroo with their picks. Talk us through that.
Oh, can't, Mick.
Yeah, I actually, and apologies for the confusion I caused last night, I thought that Port Adelaide had the pick after Fremantle. So what actually happened was Fremantle had a strong interest in Joe Berry.
Yes.
And I believe that to prevent the Fremantle Dockers doing a trade with the West Coast Eagles and jumping in ahead of Port Adelaide to select Berry, Port actually got him first. So they got in, they got their man, and the Eagles picked up an additional pick in pick 45.
Yeah, it was a really good bit of movement there.
Yeah.
And I've got no doubt that the Dockers...
I love that Ducks and Drakes kind of stuff. That makes it interesting, doesn't
Well,
it?
I've got no doubt that David Walls would have had his eyes set on Joe to be able to pick up Joe Berry as a small forward who can really score, because this is one of the areas that Freo are really deficient in.
He's a goal kicker, yeah.
And then obviously they go to the next... Then they go to their next... Their plan B is to get the best player available, which for the Dockers has ended up being Murphy Reid. And seeing some of his highlights, Mick, he's got some tricks, this cat.
He's unbelievable, Shaun. His footy IQ is off the charts, and we saw some vision last night on the coverage where the ball looks dead and like nothing's going to happen, and then all of a sudden he just creates something out of nothing, keeps the ball alive, and things happen when the ball's in his hands. So, you know, I think they had Joe Berry and Murphy Reid very, very closely aligned, so they would have been splitting hairs, and in the end they've got their man as well. But look, he's got an unbelievable bag of tricks, and I'm really interested to see where he starts his career at the Fremantle Dockers positionally. And again, I mean, the Purple Army have got something to get excited about for a number of years to come.
I did notice that a couple of the articles online described him as not the quickest. That seems to be a harsh, don't you reckon?
Oh, geez, I think there was a few of us as we get ranked in those categories. But look, he's not. He lacks a little bit of leg speed, but his footy nous and the way he sees the game, he sees it unfold before other players are maybe a little bit more athletically gifted. So, geez, there's no issues there with Murphy Reid, that's for sure, and he'll do some pretty special things in the purple for many, many years to come.
Mick, I want to go back for the West Coast Eagles. So over the last couple of years, and adding Bo Allen, like he's an absolute weapon in terms. He's a big man, right? Ruben Jimby, who's a big human as well. Clay Hall's about 6'2", he's a big fella. Harley Reid plays with absolute power. We add, as I said, Bo Allen to that. You see, I mean, Ruben's starting to play off the half-back line.
Good nucleus, isn't it?
Yeah, you're starting to get a team together in what will be their future. What would they probably be looking at today, and is there any West Australians that you could see that could fit a role at the Eagles?
Yeah, you're spot on with the analysis, guys, and I think Hamish Davis is another guy that I thought would have been the second player to go from a WA perspective. He's a hybrid forward, about 190 centimetres.
Yep.
Played a lot of league footy for Claremont this year, and I'm sure he'll definitely be in the Eagles side. Whether they also can potentially trade up, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what Richmond do with the first pick tonight, whether they retain that, whether they trade with another club. But there's a guy, Jack Whitlock, who is an outstanding key position player as well. That's still on the table. Joe Shanahan's another one. So I reckon the Eagles would be having a bit of a look at what they can do and potentially stocking up in the tools department. But they've just got to continue to select best available, and let's hope they look in their own backyard. Maybe the likes of, like I say, a Hamish Davis.
Yeah, because would you look at the Whitlock kid, given that his twin's going to be playing in Melbourne, though, is that going to, the go-home factor, is that going to kick in?
There's always go-home matters.
I know, but with twins, it's even stronger, Mick.
Yeah, well, maybe we could try and attract Matt Whitlock to the west.
Twin Towers.
Have the Twin Towers over there. But, look, it always is a risk. There's no doubt about that. But you've got to back your footy club in, you back your culture, and if they do depart after, establishing themselves, making a bit of a name for themselves, you try and recoup that in draft picks, through trade periods. But I wouldn't hesitate to call his name if he was still there.
Yep.
Hopefully, Mick, will be able to see another 5 to 7 West Australians get their name called out today. And, of course, there's the rookie list stuff that takes place the following day on Friday. It's been interesting. Have you seen this draft as one of those ones where there is so many good players as well?
Yeah, absolutely. That's probably 30% deeper than what previous drafts have, and that's why we saw the evenness of the first round. There was probably 4 or 5 guys that could have been taken with a number 1 pick, and that's why I think we'll see more picks this year than what we have in previous years, and clubs delving into the 18-year-old talent with a bit of a sprinkling of mature ages in the back end.
Mick, quick question. Are there any more Ashcrofts, or is that it? Because they're all guns, aren't they?
Let's hope for the competition's sake, Nat. No, otherwise the Brisbane Lions are going to be unstoppable for the next 10 years.
Because I reckon that Levi's better than Will. Is that true?
Look, he's a different type of player. He is a dead set clone of Lockie Neal, Levi Ashcroft. Okay. So between him and Sam Marshall, who's their other academy prospect they picked up a little bit later, they are absolutely stacked for talent at the Lions for a long time yet.
Yeah. Isn't it amazing the way it works out? And you've got to have, Collingwood were able to get the Dacos boys for free, and they've got a Darcy Moore, father of sons, some real quality players. And when Brisbane are at the peak of their powers, and they're still picking up
these guns, I know,
players
for free, essentially.
It's quite amazing, and good luck to them. And hopefully we'll see the case in the Fremantle Dockers and the West Coast Eagles father-son academy. All their academies taking place in the next couple of years. We can get
Fingers
some players.
Crossed. Yeah.
Hey, Mick, thanks very much for your time. Really appreciate it, mate.
Happy draft day.
Yeah, we might see if we can catch up with you tomorrow and see how many WA's stars get off the board.
Love to, guys. Thanks for your time.
See ya.
Good evening, Mick. Nice week.
Shaun Sport in podcast form.
Well, all the sporting actions on Fox Sports and KAYO, but if you're watching Channel 504 yesterday, which is Fox Footy, you would been able to see the AFL Draft 2024.
Excellent.
The Richmond Footy Club did a great deal of work there. 6 picks yesterday alone, but for our WA teams, West Coast Eagles picked 16, Fremantle picked 17, the way things ended up. David Zita from Fox Sports, the great man, he joins us to talk about the draft now. G'day, Dave.
Hey, Shaun. Hey, Nat. How you going?
Hey, Dave.
Mate.
Big day.
Did you have your pen out describing flat out yesterday from pick to pick?
It was quite intense, but got through it. But ultimately, it's always probably one of the busiest nights of the year, draft night. So good to get through it in one piece. And now on to night 2, and a whole lot more, many more picks tonight.
Yeah.
Tonight's a real slog. So hopefully we get through it in one piece.
Obviously, the number 1 draft pick, that wasn't a surprise. We knew that was a lock-in. We knew what was happening there with Lawler. But were there any surprises to you in what happened after that?
Well, I think it pretty much went to script until Jonty Fall for Richmond with pick 14.
Yeah.
He was definitely a bolter. So once he got picked, everything sort of got upended and things went out the window, and it just got a bit more complex and a bit more guesswork. So, it was a pretty regulation first few picks, or first 13 or 14. But then once Jonty's name got read out, then things started to go a bit more exciting in left field, and obviously a trade late in the night with North and Richmond that was a real shocker to watch unfold, given what North gave up in the end, the first round pick next year, which is could be a high pick.
That's big,
Whitlock.
Yeah, that was a big deal. The 2 twins who you were talking about just then, and one of them getting picked up. So that one that got picked up last night, what was his name again? David?
Yeah, so that was Matt Whitlock.
Yep.
So Jack still yet to be
He's on the table.
drafted. There's potentially, he was really high draft pick, that he was earmarked to be a high draft pick, so he really could get picked up pretty early tonight. It could be the first pick. So you would have, I imagine Richmond has got the first pick. They've been the centre of this draft. They'd have a lot of phone calls overnight. Blair Hartley trying to get the first pick of the second night. That's obviously one of the more prized picks in the draft, even though it's a bit later in the order. So I think there'll be a fair few there because Jack Whitlock's still on the table, along with a few others as well who we probably didn't expect to still be there.
Yeah,
right.
And watching it last night and watching the two twins together, and of course Matt gets his name read out by North Melbourne and he's off, and his brother was crying. He was crying in relief, but also upset the fact that his brother, who was expected to go before Matt, hadn't got picked up. He was left on the board, and the family
That's an
were
awkward car ride home, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And the family, mum and dad are consoling, first of all, congratulating one son and then consoling the other, David. How was that? It was the atmosphere around that itself.
Yeah, I asked, I just spoke to Matt Whitlock. There was a draft opportunity this morning at Marvel Stadium just with all the first round draftees, and spoke to him, and he admitted it was pretty bittersweet. He was wrapped, and he's pretty sure that Jack will get picked up, if not with the first pick tonight, then certainly a bit further down the track and not too further along. But he was obviously expecting to go last night, so bittersweet I think would be the feeling for the parents who are just obviously wanting both their kids to get to a club, and you'd ideally have it done on the first night and get to go home, but especially if you're not expecting to have to wait till night two. It's just a bit, you probably, think a delivery's coming one night and then it doesn't come that night. And then
you're flat.
You just have to reorient your week.
Yeah, and you obviously set yourself up for it. Was there anybody else that had been invited last night that wasn't picked up, that was sitting there in the room?
Oh, there was a few. I mean, there'd be a fair few names there, I think, but the majority of them were able to get to their club of choice, and they'll be, again tonight, they won't have to wait too long. I think the general consensus is those that had to wait, those that didn't get picked out tonight, last night, who were hot favourites to get picked up, it's not going to take them too long. Because clubs have the night to sleep on it and to reorient their plans. So I think you'll see a lot of those boys go pretty quickly tonight once things get underway in the second round, even though it's up to pick 28 now.
I know.
Yeah, that's amazing. I'm not sure if I do know. I'm not a fan of the way it works.
Everybody criticises girl math, but that's appalling.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. David, the interesting thing is with those kids, a lot of them have been had interview after interview.
Yes.
So I know a kid
and
in WA.
a number of different clubs.
Yeah, I know a guy in WA who's hopeful of getting picked up, and he might be in the 60s or something, but he's had 10 or 11 interviews, and some with clubs that have had multiple times, 2-3 times that have come back to their house and done all that stuff. So it's really difficult to be in that situation because you've been built up no matter how many times you say, just calm down, it mightn't happen, or it's going to happen, or it's going to be first day, second day. But because you're in the spotlight, and these kids are only 17, 18, it must be such a difficult situation for them.
Yeah, and they've obviously get a fair bit of training and media training of dialogue from clubs on the way into it, but you can't really predict. You can't really just guarantee them that you're going to take them because things change so quickly. I mean, Levi Ashcroft from the Lions is probably the only one who really knew of exactly where he was going and where he would be playing next year. He's really alone in that department. So, last night wouldn't have been an easy night for those who didn't get drafted because you just have to sleep on it and you just would be tossing and turning and playing it over in your head. I've done anything different this year. So I don't envy them in their position. But then obviously once they get drafted, they'll be just fine. They'll get paid lots of money and do some good things.
Everything's okay.
It'll be fine for them. Don't stress. But it's never an easy wait. I don't think that's what most players.
Yeah, it's that feeling of limbo, especially if it potentially might have to move across the country. It's a big deal when you're 18. Yeah,
for sure.
It is.
David, thanks very much for your time, mate. Channel 504 will be able to watch all the action. Fox Footy, of course, we'll see you reporting on it as well. Enjoy, a couple of hours, hopefully, of peace before you get stuck into it again.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for the chat.
Cheers.
Shaun Sport in podcast form.
Natalie, the Railway Stakes is taking place tomorrow, and we've got a
Not tomorrow, Shaun. Today's Thursday. Had to break it to you.
God, I'm going to come work tomorrow. Well, that's heartbreaking. Anyway, you've ruined my week.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's on Saturday, everybody.
Saturday. We've got hospitality tickets for 2 to the Railway Stakes, November 23rd. Saturday. Ascot Racecourse. Experience a $1.5 million railway stakes and get your tickets at perthracing.com.au. And we're going to give that to caller number 10 right now.
Because we love you
10.
early morning people.
Yeah, what a great way to start the day.
Yeah, I know, right?
Simon Miller is...
Yes, we don't have him yet.
Top race.
Tell us all about Simon Miller because we're still trying to get him up.
Simon was originally a Victorian and he came over here and I met him through Peter Bell, actually.
Oh, right.
He got involved in the South Fremantle Football Club there for a quick time just to be able to connect with some sporting people.
Sure.
And get his stable up and running in WA, which he did quick fire. And fortunately enough, I was able to meet him through Belly and some of the other guys I played footy with, and it turns out we had a great relationship with a horse that nearly won the Railway Stakes in Platinum Rocker.
So talk to us about how close you came.
Probably about an inch.
So nostril hair?
Yeah, absolutely, from winning it one year. And my dad that particular year pulled the widest gate in the barrier draw.
So he was tasked with the responsibility of drawing the barrier.
Yeah, and he pulled a really wide
Henry.
one. And then he was so angry at us for making him go up and pull the barrier.
Yeah.
And then he thought that everyone was targeting him. Oh, we can't win. We can't do this. And then, we nearly pulled off a big victory. So he sprayed me afterwards. But
it sounds like if he hadn't drawn that barrier that you would have won if you were that close. Do you know what I mean? Have you looked at it that way?
Yeah, yes, absolutely. Yep, for sure. But it was a great moment for our family to be able to be involved in a horse all together and share that moment.
And
it was so
how
close.
big a day is Railway Stakes in terms of the racing calendar?
In WA, the Railway Stakes is seen as the number one race, probably like the Cox Plate is in Melbourne.
Yeah.
That's the number one race. Whilst we have the Perth Cup and we have the Melbourne Cup, but that's certainly the number one race. And, from my dad's family side, there's so many of the cousins who have been in this industry for so long that they were right behind us as well, which is great. And it was great for Dad as well.
Well, Simon Miller's not answering his phone, Shaun. So what did you do to upset him is what I need to know.
Well, he's probably working on but behind the scenes doing
track
all the hard
work?
yards,
Is it
mucking
track
the
work
stables.
time?
I say, yep, absolutely. Well, it's going to be a big weekend anyway. We've given away the tickets already, so we can happily move on to that. Hey, I want to just talk about the Socceroos while we got the chance.
Oh, okay, sure.
Their skipper, Matt Ryan, hasn't been selected as the number one goalkeeper in the Australian team, but he's sitting on the bench, right, and he's come out yesterday after the game and basically said they haven't got a hardened edge and they're not tough enough to be able to put these games away. There's too many lapses in the way they're playing. Although they're playing well, there's just a real soft edge to them.
Is he wrong?
No,
but is that a bad thing for the captain to say?
I don't mind it. I don't mind. We haven't heard that enough over the journey by people coming out and really putting the spotlight on individuals.
But when you're saying that from the bench, it sounds a little bit like you're criticising everybody else and not yourself.
Yeah, I understand that, but he's one of those guys who's 100 years old and he's been around, played a number of World Cups already. So the reason why he's out is because of that reason. They've got him around as a steadying influence.
Yeah.
But for him to come out and say that yesterday after the Socceroos drew 2-2 with Bahrain,
So how do they change that then?
When you watch the game, it was a bit like when you watch Ben Simmons play basketball in the NBA. He's on a tearaway layup, Ben Simmons. He stops halfway, then passes the ball out to someone else to shoot.
So lack of confidence?
So that's what happened with the
Not
Socceroos
backing themselves
yesterday.
in?
They were in positions where they should have been going gung-ho at the goals, and then someone would just stop and kick the ball backwards. Just not ruthless enough. They've got to have take the opportunities when they arise because they don't come that often.
All right, so Socceroos, Shaun thinks they're a bit soft too.
Yeah. Simon Miller, catch you tomorrow.
Simon Miller didn't answer his phone. Hilarious.
Shaun Sport is a Nova podcast. For more great comedy shows like this, head to novapodcast.com.au.